On October the 3rd, the Overwatch will shut down forever. Although this is not the end and everything is gonna get transferred with some modifications to Overwatch 2, doesn't mean we're not gonna miss all the times we had in the game. This video is about what I think happened to the game and more of a personal experience with it. It was about 4 PM in an afternoon of 2017 when I first installed this game, and I was very excited at first. Over the time, I made some friends, I had a lot of fun, argued with some people, worked with people as a team, and now, after 5 years, in an afternoon at 4 PM as I'm recording this video, I've come to say that the Overwatch is no more. Not that the game is 100% dead, people still play it, people still have fun, but we could agree that this is not the same as the game we had a few years ago. We could probably also agree that 2016 to 2018 period was the climax of Overwatch. And now with Overwatch 2 around the corner, the game's gonna regain some traction, but let's talk about what Overwatch was and what happened to it. At some point, things started going downhill. Now, mind you that this is entirely subjective and based on what I saw over the years from a player's point of view, and I won't be covering every single thing that happened, and that I could be wrong at some points. I believe there were various factors that led to the downfall of the game over the time, and I believe had it not been for these, Overwatch could still have been in its original form, because this game is pretty much the flagship of its own kind, the hero shooter games. Now, whether if that title belongs to Team Fortress 2, or if Valorant is becoming the most popular hero shooter game is another discussion. I think during its climax, Overwatch really earned that title. At the time, there was Team Fortress 2, which people still play and have fun with. There was also Paladins, which people called a free copy of Overwatch, which I don't really think is a fair statement. It's a game that is unique and fun in its own way, though I still see Overwatch as the game with the upper hand. I think one of the major things that led to the downfall of the game was balancing the heroes. Overwatch is a hero shooter game, but I don't think it necessarily was restricted to that. You had champions, even at the launch of the game, that weren't hit-scan aiming heroes, such as Symmetra, Winston, Mei, Junkrat, Reinhardt, and I think that's a very good thing. It was a substantial aspect of the game that made it unique. And even after the launch, 3 hit-scan aiming heroes were introduced: Sombra, Orisa, Ana. But later in 2017, Doomfist was introduced to the game, a very mobile hero who could one-shot people at the hands of someone capable, and he was a bit frustrating to play against, and even he still is. And later in that year, Moira was introduced to the game, a healer that was pretty easy to use since she required pretty much no aiming and could deal some amount of damage. But everything was so far so good. Doomfist was a difficult hero to play anyways, and he could be easily killed especially if he made a mistake, and Moira was a pretty squishy hero and could be handled. Actually, I think from one point of view, adding these two heroes contributed to the uniqueness of the game. But what came next was a recipe for disaster, and came along Brigitta, daughter of Torbjorn. On 2018, she was added to the game as a support hero. She was a healer tank hybrid. She was OP at launch. On the top of that, she was pretty easy to use. Just to let you know, she received a total of 19 nerfs. Now, I don't really think it was Brigitta alone that killed the game, yet she was a substantial part of something that came later and dealt a major blow to the game. But before I get to that, there were a couple of other things I'd like to mention. In my opinion, Blizzard and Overwatch developers team alone weren't responsible for the downfall of the game. The community was also responsible to some extent, let's face it. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about every single person that plays Overwatch and is a part of the community, but there were things within the Overwatch community that contributed to the downfall of the game. The indecisiveness At some points, the community didn't know what they wanted, and Blizzard would usually listen. When Ashe was released, her gold weapon was just a rifle, but the community asked that they also make Bob Gold, and they listened and they did. But that was just an example of something good that happened at some point. Here's a budget representation of something else that also happened at some point.
Hey Blizzard, Ripper kinda sucks right now, so maybe just make him a little bit stronger.
Oh, we think he's fine as he is right now.
Buff him.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Now that I think about it, maybe Valorant.
Oh, what changes do you want on him?
Changes. Changes.
How about we increase his lifesteal?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
So they increased Reaper's lifesteal from 25% to 35%, but then...
So Blizzard, that change was kinda lame. Ripper still gets shit on, so maybe just adjust him a bit more.
How about more lifesteal?
Oh my god, Blizzard, you're a genius!
Reaper's lifesteal increased to 50%. Now, Reaper is a hero with a pair of close-range shotguns that can kill some heroes with only 2 shots. He was very good at countering tanks, but with this change, tanks were pretty much walking health packs for him. And the thing is, people who knew how to deal with Reaper still had no problem with him, so he was kind of OP at the moment, but was also kind of lame at the same time.
Blizzard, those changes you made on Reaper suck, and that means you suck.
I hate you kids so much. So as a result, they turned his lifesteal back to 35%. Here's another example. Jesus Christ, not this kid again.
Blizzard, this map sucks harder than my grandma.
Okay, I see what we can do. There we go, we worked it.
Oh, thanks.
3 days later.
Blizzard, this map still sucks.
You know what, I say we all switch to Valorant. Before I get back to Brigitte's situation, there is another thing I wanted to mention. Toxicity. Or rather, the stigma around toxicity within the Overwatch community. Now, you might disagree with me on this, but I think toxicity in online video games is actually fine, as long as it doesn't get too nasty or it doesn't seem like a one-sided bullying. And that could be a longer discussion for another time. But the thing with the Overwatch is that toxicity was given too much weight. People were complaining about how the game is way too toxic, where in reality, Overwatch wasn't actually as toxic as some of the other competitive online games, based on my personal experience at least. Now, these games on average are more toxic than the Overwatch, but the thing is, you don't see their communities complaining about how toxic their game is. Well, the players have complained about how toxic their game is at some point, but it's nowhere close to how big of a deal Overwatch players made it to be. I remember at one instance, D.Va has an in-game voice line.
Is this easy mode?
Some people were spamming it, and some other would get mad about it. And some people would actually get banned over it.
I mean, if you get mad over someone spamming a voice line like an idiot and want to have him banned, I don't know.
The thing is, some people, me myself included, play this game for fun and chill. Some other people play it for the competitive aspect. They try hard, they sweat, they often take it serious. And some people are in between in this spectrum. Now, I'm not prescribing who is right or wrong here. People have different reasons to play video games. But you have to admit that in a competitive gaming sphere, these things happen. An Overwatch community, not everyone of course, was a bit too sensitive about it. In most of the other competitive online games, if someone said easy, usually people wouldn't mind. Not that they are masochistic and they enjoy someone beating the shit out of them and then saying easy, but that it's not a very big deal. If someone said easy in the Overwatch, as far as I remember, some people would lose their mind. I think this whole stigma around toxicity in the game, taking it too serious, certainly played a significant role in the downfall of the game. So, what happened at some point? GOAT happened. Now, this video is not about the pro scene of the game, but it's impossible to talk about the downfall of the game and not talk about GOAT. GOAT was a pro team in Overwatch back in 2018. They brought with themselves a very peculiar formation, which is consisted of 3 tanks and 3 supports, known as the GOAT formation. Remember Brigitte? She had a core role in this formation. This is way stronger than what it looks like, and it was just so painful to play against. This became controversial, naturally. It felt like illegal cheating at the point. Obviously, people were upset with it. Later, in a developer update, Jeff Kaplan came and introduced the 2-2-2 system. He said it had nothing to do with the GOAT, which I don't really think anyone's buying. The thing is, even before the enforcement of the 2-2-2 formation, the 2-2-2 formation was usually a consensus, and people would do that on agreement. Some people actually wanted a locked 2-2-2 system because, sometimes your Reinhardt would switch to Hanzo out of nowhere. Forcing a 2-2-2 formation wasn't really bad, but the thing is, they reintroduced the classic ranked match. I'm not sure if subsiding the ranked players into 2 segments really helped the game. It was also around that time that a decline in new content was happening. Nothing really new other than a couple of heroes, and the annual events were the same. It was around that time that Overwatch 2 was introduced. They showed the trailer and showcased the game at BlizzCon. Everyone were excited, but at the same time they were questioning the decision. Overwatch 2? They said that the game would be more PvE based plus the already existing PvP, and now that they are shutting Overwatch 1 down, we know what they mean. But was it really necessary? Jeff Kaplan said that there was enough new content to make a second game, and it was gonna get a graphic enhancement with some other changes, but people were still skeptical about it. Couldn't have they just added this stuff as a form of DLC to the game and adjust the changes? Because the idea of Overwatch 2 sounded a bit strange. But I think the fact that they put their focus on the story and the world of the Overwatch is great because its universe has a lot of potential and Blizzard is a master at butchering a franchise's potential. Yeah, I'm absolutely not talking about Warcraft at all. Maybe they saw the current state of Overwatch and decided to move everything to Overwatch 2, the long matchmaking times, the game becoming less rewarding, and everything else we discussed. Now put all of that on the top of everything that was going on in Blizzard at the time. Now this video is not about that because that would probably be a longer discussion, but it certainly affected the game, the corruption, the abuse that some people faced, and some more terrible stuff that happened affected the game. One minor example is changing McCree's name to Cassidy, just because some moron in Blizzard was named McCree. Yeah, Blizzard, good job. Change names because that's the most important thing. I guess from your perspective, this lady should also be forced to change her name because it sounds like something in your language, or this lady. Yeah, very useful. I know he's a fictional character and everything, but he's still Jesse McCree to me. It was also from that point that the main developers started to quit. Jeff Kaplan, the chief director of the game, the guy that was there from the beginning, left. Every time there was a developer update video, it was him explaining the changes and the patches. I know it might sound a bit ridiculous, but the developer update videos with him and all the memes about him and the game were the spirit of the Overwatch that kept the community together. In addition to that, Michael Chu, the lore designer, and not so long ago Geoff Goodman, the lead hero designer, Some might argue that this could open space for new people with new ideas, but these people and some others that left were the backbone of the game, and that would probably change the game in many ways. Well, that was pretty much about it. Now we have Overwatch 2. We're just gonna have to see how it is. I think it'll be fine. With everything said, doesn't mean we can't enjoy the game. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, please leave a like and subscribe for more Overwatch videos. And I'm gonna see you around. Goodbye.